in my bio. Good evening and welcome to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, bottom right hand corner. We are now targeting 4,400 subscribers. I massively appreciate the support as always. And I will start with an apology because I had hinted that I would go live for a watch along last night and it never materialised. I genuinely had the intention of doing it, but my flatmate, not my girlfriend, but my flatmate, normally on a Wednesday, he either gets home really drunk or he doesn't stay the night here. So I was thinking that was going to happen again. Unfortunately, he stayed in, and so I didn't really want to wake him up on a work night by live streaming. So I apologise for that, but it's good to see you, Damien, Leo, Leeds Gunner, Tony, Ross, Liam, Jake, George. As always, the regulars are in. You'll love to see it. So obviously we will go through a recap of the game last night. I know I did a video on it earlier, but some of you might not have seen it, so we'll go through that. There's not a lot of news today, transfer news, so we will have a bit of a discussion about depth. The depth of Arsenal's squad. Why are you always wearing other teams' kits? Don't find it funny. Why not? I never wear another Premier League team's kit, and I just quite like wearing different football kits. And also, it gets a bit repetitive wearing the same Arsenal shirts day in, day out. These 5 PM streams are the centre of my schedule. They're the centre of my schedule as well. It has to be said. Too much depth ain't a thing. We'll get into it, but I do agree. Lee plays, my life is good. Thank you very much. Saka, Balogun was class yesterday. Balogun was good. Balogun was very good. One thing on Balogun, so he was asked again about his future. On Apple TV, he said, I let my family take care of my future and that sort of thing. I'm happy being here, enjoying every minute and looking forward to the future. So a more upbeat following Balogun, potentially a more positive response this time. Interesting that he says he lets his family take care of things. Rory, where can I watch the full game from last night? I think you can watch it on Apple TV. I think there's, you should be able to watch it on Apple TV if you had it for last night. Hi, I normally watch on TikTok, but I'm here. Good to see you, Stanley. Made the trip from TikTok to YouTube. Doesn't it look so much better over here? It does indeed. George says, finally, he sounds happy. Yeah, I hope he does. I mean, he played well yesterday. What did Balogun do yesterday? Ran fast? Well, he did run fast, yeah. Among many things, he did run fast. Do you think Partey's going to leave? No. We covered it yesterday or the day before. I don't think Thomas Partey is going to leave. It sounds like Arsenal are keen on keeping him now as well. Have you seen how England are thrashing Australia? Yeah, we absolutely are. We're battering them. We are battering them. But on last night's game, the big takeaway, and the reason that I've titled this, How Much Depth is Too... Whatever I've titled it, Do We Have Too Much Depth? Is that we do have an awful lot of depth. You know, you look at last night, right? We started with a midfield of Jorginho, Fabio Vieira and Leandro Trossard. And I'd argue each of those is almost third choice in that position. We then, in the second half, had a midfield, at one point certainly, of Rice, Ødegaard and Kai Havertz. And that doesn't even factor in that Zinchenko, Thomas Partey weren't even there. Smith Rowe, who potentially could play as a left-sided 8, wasn't there. So there is a serious level of depth, particularly around the sort of the fullbacks that can invert and then the general midfield. I'm good, thank you, Tom. Hope you are too. Afternoon, Leo. Good to see you. So yeah, I think like in terms of the depth, it's a scary level of depth, and ultimately the answer to the question in the title, do we have too much depth? The answer is no. There's no such thing as too much depth. And considering the last 2 seasons where it's been the lack of depth that have harmed us, obviously it's a good sign. And the thing is, the good thing is, why is your audio so low? The audio shouldn't be low, so maybe try turning yours up, because I haven't changed anything. But I think the key thing is, next summer, maybe it turns out that some players were too much depth. Maybe we don't need... You know, I think next summer Jorginho probably leaves anyway. Trossard will be a year older, but It's not a bad thing. It is absolutely not a bad thing. And if in the end there are a couple of players that maybe would consider themselves first team players that don't get much game time and they want to move on, then that's fair enough. But I would way rather be in the position we're in now than the position of not having enough players. Who's your favourite signing we've made this window? So, Declan Rice is my favourite signing that we've made this window because I think it means so much on so many levels in terms of where we are as a club and how we can compete. But Timber, I think, is the best value. I think you see Timber play yesterday. He is going to be so good. So good. On the ball. Off the ball is the only slight concern I have is off the ball. His positional awareness, sometimes playing at right back, if we come up against some properly talented left wingers. But other than that, in the midfield, looks just as comfortable as Zinchenko does on the other side. In one-on-one duels defensively, fantastic. And the crazy thing is that yesterday he looked bedded in already. Like, he didn't look... sometimes you bring in a player and they... you can tell that they need time to adapt. I think we've seen it a little bit with Kai Havertz, but Timber just fit in straight away, and so did Declan Rice. And I mean, Declan Rice has had about 4 training sessions. That's it. So, what does too much depth mean? Well, that's a good question. What would be too much depth? I think it is. Some people say at points, City have had a level of depth where it could cause unrest, where you have so many players not playing that are good enough to play that it causes problems, but yeah, it's definitely not a problem for us at the moment. Question, if Kudus comes in, who's more likely to go out, Smith Rowe or Fabio? For me, it would be Fabio. But I do feel like I have a bias towards Smith Rowe because he's always been one of my favourite players. So yeah. I don't know. I think Fabio... Who knows? I mean, again, to be fair, last night I didn't think Fabio had a bad game. I didn't. Kivior excites me so much. I think he'll be better than Zinni in a year or so. Kivior does excite me. There are a lot of parts of Kivior's game that do excite me. The one thing, the small concern at the moment, and to be fair, Zinchenko can occasionally have the same issues, giving the ball away a bit cheaply. A couple of times in the last couple of games, he's given the ball away in slightly dangerous positions, slightly too easily, and against better Premier League and Champions League opposition, you can get punished for that. But his recovery pace massively helps the fact that at least when he does give it away, he can recover quite quickly. But yeah, seeing him play at left back, the way he can interchange with Gabriel, who's at centre back, so you can comfortably have both of them playing. Those diagonal cross balls over to Saka, so good. And obviously he has that physicality, and I feel like you can bring in him when you've got Timber at right back, and that's more balanced. And then you can obviously have Zinchenko and Ben White, which I think is balanced, going the opposite way. Katie and Tomiyasu played well coming off the bench. They did. I still think, ultimately, I think if we don't get many injuries in defence, Tomiyasu and Katie won't play much this season. But what a level of depth that is to have, that if we do have an injury crisis, you've got players like Tomiyasu and Kieran Tierney, where it used to be Cedric or Nuno Tavares or Rob Holding. That's a massive improvement for us. And it's really exciting. A couple of people talking about Marquinhos in the chat. Again, I thought he had a good game. The assist for Havertz was really good. And to be fair, I've not seen much of him play. And he got... Norwich fans didn't speak too highly of him on the back of his loan at Norwich. But I think from the time that he joined Norwich until the end of the season, they didn't have a good season at all. They fell off a cliff towards the end of last season. And so I feel like the Norwich perspective, or the Norwich fans' perspective of Marquinhos, is probably slightly blighted by that. But from what I've seen, yeah, he does look... I don't think he's good enough to be Bukayo Saka's backup yet. I think he probably goes on another loan next season. But he is looking good. Carl Hein cannot play from the back. No. Well, to be fair, with Hein, I don't think we're going to see much of him this season. I mean, it's interesting, actually. Arteta spoke about Matt Turner, who obviously we've not seen during pre-season so far. He was asked what he wants from Matt Turner next season. He said, first of all, the same as last year, which is a great contribution to the squad and a great contribution to the goalkeeping unit as well, because he's so competitive and he keeps everyone at their best level every single day. And then he said, then when he played, he's been great with us, and the national team has been superb. So I think he's on a great trajectory. Obviously, he needed some holiday because it's been a long, long year for him. I don't know how many competitions he's played in, but it was so many, and so he needed a break. When it's after the break, he'll be back with us. So, I mean, there's no point worrying, honestly, about Karl Hein or Runarsson or Okonkwo and what happens to them at this point. Ramsdale's distribution wasn't great last night. It wasn't something I noticed, to be honest. I'm not gonna disagree with you, but it wasn't something that I massively noticed was off. If Vieira goes on loan, what Prem team would suit him best? This is the thing with Vieira. Part of me does feel like he needs a loan, but I don't know where. I don't know where he'd fit in, because I feel like he needs to be at a team that plays football to a really high level. And the only ones of those would be competitors to us next season. Like maybe a Brighton or a Villa. But other than that, I don't think he'd have that great a time at other teams where, you know, if you're in the bottom half of the table in the Premier League, a big part of your game has to be physicality and that side of the game. And Vieira obviously doesn't have that. So, I don't know, it's tricky. Kudus can play midfield, but he's coming mostly to cover Saka. Yeah, if Kudus does come in, he'll the first point of call will be a backup to Bukayo Saka, I think. Do you think we'll play Havertz as an 8 or further up the pitch? Good question. And again, something that Mikel Arteta spoke about after the game that I thought was really interesting. So he was asked about Kai Havertz adapting to different positions. He said, I think, again, it's one of the main qualities he has, that ability to adapt to different positions. He said it gives us something very different. His quality and size as well, when you have to beat the press, for example, and use him as a target man. So we'll see. For now, he's playing as in the attacking midfield position, but I'm sure throughout the season and throughout games as well, we're going to have different positions. We're going to see him in different positions. So that's interesting. And obviously, I've said numerous times on this channel, especially back towards the tail end of last season, when we were playing against Man City, that I felt we needed a big target man as an outlet. Now, I didn't necessarily consider Kai Havertz as that player, but when we play against teams like Man City that are exceptionally good at pressing, you know, a big factor of those games was that both teams are good at pressing. Man City, when they got in trouble at the back, could go long to Erling Haaland and still retain possession. Arsenal just didn't have that opportunity or that ability because we didn't have anyone with size up top. So I see Havertz being used in both roles. I think the majority of the time we'll see him as an attacking midfielder, but in certain games where it's necessary, we'll see him move up alongside the striker and be a target man. Rory, I'm going to New York for the United game. What would be your starting 11? Good question. What would be my starting 11 for United? I want to blow United off the park. I want it to be as close to what Mikel Arteta thinks our best team can be as possible. So I think I'd start Ramsdale in goal. Timber or White is such a tricky one because I want to see more of Timber. So I think I would. I'd go Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, Rice, Havertz, Ødegaard, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. That would be mine. I really want to see us batter United, just as a statement. You know how last season we battered Chelsea in the pre-season? And even though everyone's like, oh, it's only pre-season, it did mean something. Like, on a mental level, it meant something. And I'd like us to do that to Man United. Would you like another striker, or do you think Jesus can do the job? We don't need another striker. We've got Jesus, Nketiah, Balogun, Trossard, Havertz that can all play through the middle. We don't need another one. It's not a priority for us at the moment at all. And I'd rather bring in a Kudus, a Lavia maybe. No Trossard in that 8 role, please. Yeah, I do. So Trossard in that 8 role, is honestly something that when we saw it at the end of last season, I thought was really because of the players that were out injured. It just suited putting Trossard there. But I honestly think next season we could see him there quite a lot, and I think he'll suit the games. He'll suit the games where we've got 85% possession playing against a really low block and we're just desperately trying to break through it. Because the way that he plays in that position and the way that he interchanges with Gabriel Jesus, with Nketiah, with Martinelli, with whoever it is in that front line, it causes massive problems. And if you look at the goals we scored last night, there was so much movement in and around the edge of the box. You look at where Jesus scored his goal from. You look at where Trossard scored his goal from. You look towards the end, the way Havertz was arriving at the back post. I think Trossard can be a massive key to unlocking defences playing in that position. But I think in tougher games, I think in tougher games for me, the midfield would be Partey, Rice, and Ødegaard. I know I've said that a lot. Just because I don't know about Trossard's defensive awareness and defensive work rate. And in games where you're against a proper tough midfield, I think you'd be better off with a Declan Rice in that 8 position and then having Partey as well. Man United have Big Johnny Evans. Going to take a lot to beat them. Yeah, I think we could hammer them. I do. It sounds like it's going to be Onana's first game in goal for them, which will be really interesting. I'm confident. Ramsdale, Timber, Saliba, Gabby, Tierney. Tierney's an interesting one. Rice, Ødegaard, Havertz, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of it. Just Tierney's probably the only one that I'd have Kivior instead of. But hopefully we bring in a young third choice keeper in January next summer. Hine and Renarson are far from the appropriate level for a third choice. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't massively worry about the third choice keeper. I think Okonkwo would have been the better option for it, but it's difficult. Do you know how difficult it's going to be to retain a third choice keeper? Because your path to the first team at Arsenal is shocking if you're the third choice keeper, because of how young Ramsdale is. Like Ramsdale could be Arsenal's first choice keeper for another decade, at least, and so it's very difficult to retain a good young goalkeeper as a third choice, even as a second choice. So I still think ESR is getting overlooked as top quality depth across the midfield, left wing and false 9. I agree. I still massively back Smith Rowe next season. But then again, even when you look at like the depth we already have, and then there was more stuff last night that Arsenal are getting closer to signing this guy Botelho from Brazil, who I think if he came in would probably go straight out on loan. But it's it looks like we still want at least one more player that can at least somewhat play in midfield. Obviously, it does sound like we're going for someone versatile, whether it's Kudus or Botelho or whoever. But yeah, I do think we're going to end up with just an insanely stacked midfield, especially if we're not getting rid of Partey, which it doesn't seem like we want to. Do you think Rice will start against United or Barca? I do, yeah. I think Rice will start starting quite quickly, just because of how Arteta will want to bed in his ideal starting 11, 12, 13 players. He'll want them to be bedded in before the start of next season, 100%. Are you going to stream for the Man U game? Yes. I will stream for the Man United game, 100%. Jesus started so well last season before his injury. It'll be interesting to see what he can do this year. I'm so confident that Jesus is going to have like a really, really good year. Genuinely. That finish last night, which was 100% deliberate, so good. Rory, apart from Balogun, who can we really get good money for? Cedric, Pepe, Tavares, Lukonga, you're looking around 50 million combined. Some of them are young. I don't get it. We're not going to get that much money, truthfully. I think Balogun, you're right, is the most expensive. If Tierney goes, you're looking at probably 25, 30 million for Tierney, which is probably not enough for him, but I think that's what you'd get. And other than that, like you said, there's not a lot of money in the players that we've got to sell. It's the next batch of players that we end up selling that we should get good money for. This is kind of the final clear out of Deadwood, where once you got rid of them, almost any Arsenal player you're looking to sell at that point is going to be at least 20 million quid. And that's the position that Man City are in now. where they're selling players that have never even played a Premier League game for them for 15, 20 million quid. That's the position you want to be in. And that's the position that we'll be getting close to. Zach Crawley out for 189. Gutted. What an innings, though. What an innings. Yeah, the Barca 3:30 a.m. stream is probably not going to happen, truthfully. Rory, have you changed your opinions on the away kit yet? Because it's growing on many people. Nah, it's still not growing on me. I can understand why it's growing on people. You see the pictures of the players celebrating in the kit. It's just not growing on me. I wish I could say it was, but it's just not. It's just not my cup of tea. An Arsenal manager actually being allowed to sign the players he wants. I used to dream of times like these. It's good. It's good. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Trossard. So some people are comparing him to Cazorla. And there are similarities, right? Obviously, short, stocky, completely two-footed, really good at dribbling through the midfield, getting the head up, picking a pass. The one key difference for me, I think, is sort of defensive IQ, defensive understanding. I would trust Cazorla to sit in a midfield. I wouldn't trust Trossard just yet. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I just haven't seen that yet. That would be the key difference for me, but they do have similar vibes. They do have similar vibes. Trossard ain't stocky. No, he's not stocky. I mean, to be fair, like, Cazorla wasn't that stocky. Another key difference is he's not injured. That is true. That is true. Santi is in a realm of his own. No disrespect to Trossard. Yeah, that is the other thing. That is the other thing. Cazorla was a class above. To be honest, I don't understand why Vieira gets so many chances after consistently playing poorly over the likes of ESR. I think it's one of those. It would be if Vieira flopped, which I don't think is a great term for it, but if Vieira had to move on, it would be the first sort of semi-expensive signing of Arteta's that hadn't worked out. Obviously, there have been some Arteta signings that haven't worked out, but they've predominantly been cheap ones where there's no real loss on it. So I can understand why he's still trying to get Fabio Vieira to work. And look, Arteta and Edu's talent ID has been unbelievable. Clearly, they saw something in Vieira that they thought was worth spending the money on. And so I don't necessarily disagree with him giving every chance to try and make it work. Would you play Timber over White? White seemed poor yesterday. I think I'd be happy to rotate them throughout games. I genuinely would. I think whether it's Timber and Kivior, or even Timber and Tierney if people prefer that, or whether it's Zinchenko and White, I certainly don't think you can do Zinchenko and Timber. So if you want, and this is what I saw a bit on Twitter today where I kind of disagree with people, where people are like, you know, drop White for Timber. But that to me means that you then drop Zinchenko as well. And that's not something that's as... And look, I mean, Kivior's playing well enough that people might agree with that. But ultimately, I think that can flip. I think game on game that can change depending on the opposition and the areas or the sides of the pitch that you want to be dominating in that game, depending on the opposition's lineup. So it's a great problem to have, and it's a great option to have as well. And again, to be fair, based on that, actually, Arteta was asked whether there will be more variety from Arsenal this season. He said, we have to see, but the idea is to be more unpredictable every year and to be more difficult for opponents to stop and nullify what we want to do. That's what we have now, especially at the back and in the midfield. The options that we have to open up the spaces, we have many more options than we had last year. And that's the key thing. And I think we've known for a while that this is what Arteta's been building towards. And obviously it takes quite a while to be able to reach that level of having that many players in your squad that are that versatile. But we're really getting to that point now, and it's very exciting. Last season, Saka, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Partey, Ødegaard don't need to play 90 minutes every game. That'll be a major asset next season. Exactly. Erenta has dropped a super chat. What a legend. $5 super chat. Do you still see something in Vieira? I've lost faith. I do. I do still see glimpses of creativity that I think he could almost be the most creative player in our team. But there are glaring weaknesses that I see that concern me because other players that play in his position in our team don't have those weaknesses. One of them is literal weakness. The The other thing is just a bit of, I don't know what it is, I don't know how to describe it, a bit of that aggression and anger in his game that you see when if Erdegaard comes on, right, when we're losing, he can massively amp up the rest of the team. He can massively lift the sort of intensity of the rest of the team. I just don't see that in Vieira. And at times he becomes a passenger in the game. So it does concern me. Obviously, we've had him for a year now. So this is probably his final season to prove that he's got what it's worth. Is he SR with the squad yet? Yeah, he is. Smith Rowe and Partey joined up with the squad yesterday or the day before. So I think both of them they'll be available for the United game. But again, you bring Smith Rowe, Partey and Zinchenko into the lineup. Genuinely, there's going to be some seriously good players that don't even get on the bench, which is nuts. And for me, Fabio Vieira probably wouldn't get on the bench. So at that point, you've got a £35 million player that's not getting on the bench. What do you do with that? Because if you're not careful, you end up with another Pepe where you end up getting no money back for him. So I do think at this point, you've got to start being ruthless. When players don't work, even if you look at Man City, right? Ferran Torres, they bought him in for what, 50 million? He was good, but not good enough for Man City. And I think they made a profit on him and sold him to Barca for 60 million, but they were cutthroat with it. And I think that's what we have to start doing now as well. Arenta then says, I feel like he looks the same as when he joined the club, hasn't put on any weight or muscle. Yeah, that's a concerning thing. It's difficult to put on muscle during the season, but we've had the summer now and he hasn't put any on either. So that is a bit of a concern. Erdegaard and Fabio are too similar. I would love to see him without Erdegaard to give him more control. I would love to see him without Erdegaard to give him more control. Yeah, but we've seen him quite a lot without Erdegaard, and I think just generally speaking, we look worse when Vieira plays instead of Erdegaard. I think Gabriel's criminally underrated after being next to Saliba. Gabriel has consistently been underrated. He is genuinely top class. I absolutely love him as well. And he's the sort of character as well that is, as we move into needing to win titles, I feel like his character is building up to that as well, which is really good. Do you think we need Kudus if we have Saka, Martinelli, Nelson, Smith Rowe, Trossard and Marquinhos? Yeah, because to me, Kudus is by far and away the closest to Bukayo Saka of those players. And that's... I mean, I said it yesterday, right? That one of my feelings was that we don't have enough left-footed attacking players. Because for me, if you don't put Havertz in the front three and you assume that Marquinhos is going to be on loan again, across that front three, 7 of them are right-footed and only Bukayo Saka is left-footed. So for me, I do think we'd benefit from having an additional left-footed player, and especially someone like Kudus who's quite similar to Saka. I think that would be great, because the one thing you don't want is to have an entire season, you know, built around the way we do. Realistically, Saka is one of the positions that he will start pretty much every game. You don't want to have Saka get injured and then no real like-for-like replacement, and it massively throws off the balance of the team. So I do think it's important. Where did you get that top? I got this from Mystery Champions, one of those mystery shirt boxes, box companies. Mystery Champions. It's pinned on my Twitter if you want to find the website, and you can get 10% off if you use the discount code RoryTalks, all one word, all in caps. Where do you think we'll place in the UCL this season? So for me, the bare minimum, well, yeah, the expectation for me is quarterfinals of the Champions League. Assuming that we don't get a horrible draw, I think quarterfinals has to be the expectation at least. Because if we don't do that, what's the point? Finals, I think final of a Champions League straight off the bat could be difficult. I'd love to see it, but it could be difficult. Do you think in the next couple of years Ramsdale will be England's number one? Ramsdale should be England's number one now. Ramsdale should have been England's number one last year. He should be England's number one now. Like, he's comfortably better than Jordan Pickford. It's just that Southgate just sticks with his favourites. Anyway, it is time for Guess the Gooner, the game where I give you an ex or current Arsenal player's career path minus the Arsenal part of it, and you have to guess who that player is in the YouTube chat. First person to get it correct gets the incredible respect, admiration of the Rory Talks Football community and the wider Arsenal community. And yeah, if you're watching on TikTok, you want to get involved, the link is in my bio. Head on over. Oh, I'll tell you what, hiccuping is absolutely brutal for my ribs. Absolutely brutal. Right, oh, we've got another super chat. We've got Arenta is going off. He's got another $5 super chat. Do you feel like we still need an 8? Because I don't think we have an out-and-out box-to-box, but Partey, Rice and Oda sounds good. Yeah, so I think for me, I do think we probably need one more. And that's why Kudus excites me. Because Kudus isn't an out-and-out number 8, but he can definitely play the role well. I think in games where you need that player to be a proper box-to-box against the tougher midfields, I think it's Declan Rice. And then in games where, you know, you're playing against a deep block and you've got a lot of possession, I think that's where you can have players like Havertz and Trossard that are more creative and don't necessarily have to have as much defensive work. So yeah, I think Kudus would be great personally. Did you say Tom Garrett saying if Arsenal don't get a trophy, Arteta should be sacked? Tom Garrett is Tom Garrett is Tom Garrett. He's entitled to his opinion, and I completely disagree with him. So there we go. It's just such a that opinion of if they don't get a trophy, Arteta has to be sacked. It's so there's no nuance to it. It's like, so we don't get a trophy. Do we reach the final of every competition and come second in the Premier League to Man City by a point on 98 points? And if that happens, do you still sack Arteta? And if you sack Arteta after a season like that, who the hell are you bringing in? Like, it's so... it's the sort of thing you expect to see on TalkSport. But, you know what? Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Kama would be great. We're not getting Camavinga. As much as I agree, Camavinga would be unbelievable. We're not getting Camavinga. What reward do you get if you win Guess the Gooner? A pat on the back from yourself. A pat on the back from the wider Rory Talks Football community. And just pride. Just, you can go... You know, I don't know if you live with your parents or you live with a girlfriend or whatever, but you can go to dinner this evening and when you're asked, what did you do today? What did you achieve today? Bam. You slap that on the table. You slap Guess the Gooner champion on the table. No one else in your family has achieved as much as you today. You win a share of the donations. Well, yeah. No, you don't. No, you don't. They are paying for Arsenal tickets. Do you think if Chelsea gets top 4 or a domestic cup, it's overachieving? Yeah, I don't think Chelsea are going to get top 4 or win a trophy. So if they do that, it is overachieving. Why do Arsenal fans think they're a big team again after one season? We never stopped being a big team. This is the thing that you lot don't seem to quite understand. We never stopped being a big team. We just went through a bit of a rough patch. So we were a big team, we are a big team, and now we're a big team that's going to be competing for titles. So, cry about it. Anyway, Guess the Gooner. Guess the Gooner. This player started their career... Get your fingers on the keyboards, because this one's quite easy, so it's going to be fastest finger first. This player started at Sparta Prague. They went to Rennes and Chelsea. Sparta Prague, Rennes, Chelsea. Who is the player? Who is the player? And whilst you're thinking about it, we got another super chat from Arenta. This is unbelievable. It's another $5. I feel like I keep hearing that we can play players that are natural attacker to play the number 8 role. We need someone to be solid defensively. I do agree. And I will come back to that comment after I've seen who won Guess the Gooner. And on my screen, it was... it's not Rosicky. It was Jake Madaford. Jake Madaford has won it. Halas came second. Who else have we got on here? Halas came second. Jermaine came third. Devin came fourth. And Sunix came fifth. It was Petr Cech. It was Petr Cech. Congratulations to Jake Madaford. Not his first win. Not his first rodeo. And look, enjoy it, Jake. You know, go down at the dinner table tonight. Slap that on the table. Have some of that family. The Madaford family. They need to catch up with Jake. But I will go back to this one. Again, thank you for the super chats. I massively appreciate it. I do agree that we need... But the thing is, for me, Declan Rice is that 8 that can be solid defensively. So in games where we need an 8 that is solid defensively, I think you bring in Thomas Partey as the 6, you move Declan Rice to the 8. Or you bring in Jorginho as the 6. So yeah, I think we are kind of covered, but I don't disagree that one more wouldn't hurt. One more wouldn't hurt. Congratulations to everyone that said Petr Cech. There were a lot of you. There were a lot of you. Rory, why are some silly pundits always dismissing Gabriel and saying Gabriel will be replaced? He's a brilliant centre-back. Watch him flourish when Tierney's next to him. I don't know. I think there was a... was too busy thinking about all the pride I was going to slam on the table. My mind drew a blank. Pain. I think with Gabriel, there was a... When Gabriel arrived in the Premier League, he got labelled as like a bozo, right? Certain players get it. Granit Xhaka got it straight off the bat. Players get given a reputation. I just want to tell you, it's Aaron. No problem. Aaron, there you go. You learn something new every day. Where are you from? Where's that name from? Let me know. But yeah, I think with Gabriel, he got given the idea around Gabriel. He's always got a mistake in him. He's always going to get a red card. And actually, he did slightly have that issue when he first arrived, but he's massively got it out of his game, similarly to how Granit Xhaka did. And to be fair, part of getting that out of your game is just based on being in a side that is far more developed. Like, they're all benefiting from being in a side that, generally speaking, is far more developed. Turkey, like the flag in my name. Oh, I can't see the flags I can't see any emojis in people's names. So there you go. Good to know that you're from Turkey. Well, shout out to you, absolute legend of the chat. Rory, what do you do for work outside of TikTok and YouTube? Generally, just like social media consultancy, influencer consultancy. So yeah, I just help brands on developing their social media and influencer strategy. At the moment, basically the company I worked for when I started all of this went bust in like March. So then I was made redundant, which wasn't ideal. But fortunately, the odd brand deal here and there on TikTok kind of kept me afloat. So shout out to you, I guess, all of you lot that helped me continue making content. Do you have a season ticket? I went to the Southampton game last season. It was my first game at the Ems. No, I don't have a season ticket. I'm on the waiting list still. Been on the waiting list for 7 years. And I'm still about 40,000 away, and I know. He's kind of like Otamendi when he was at City, playing alongside a quality leader, and centre-back helped him massively. Yeah, definitely. But he's developing into such a leader. It's amazing to see Saka's development with his finishing, especially his weak foot. This is one of those things, right? Which is where I say, you know, when people are saying like, oh no, Arsenal just had a one-off season, and next season they won't be able to play at that level. Look at players like Saka, who even within last season, even, you know, the things that we achieved last season, all right, we didn't win a trophy, but, you know, it was impressive to push City as far as we did. And Saka was a key player in that, and he's only getting better. Like, he is genuinely getting better and better and better. It's scary. Same with Martinelli. Again, what a finish last night, and he made it look so easy. It's exciting. It's just exciting. I'm fed up of spending 150 to 200 quid a ticket. Yeah, it's crazy. We've got another super chat, this time from Hellas. It's 50 sec. I don't know how much that is. I don't know what a sec is, but I massively appreciate it. Hey man, just wanted to say I enjoy all of your shows. Love your takes and overall great ball knowledge. Big love from Sweden. There we go. It's a Swedish krona. I don't know what the currency is in Sweden, but look, massively appreciate that. Love to Sweden, and thank you very much. You know, the Swedish talent that Arsenal have had over the years, you know, Karlström is good. You just know Gabriel played for United. He's labelled... Oh, if Gabriel played for United, he'd be labelled the best left centre-back in the league. Yeah, definitely. Guess the non-Gooner. I nearly forgot Guess the Non-Gooner. Right, it is time for Guess the Non-Gooner. This is where I give you a player that doesn't play for Arsenal, has never played for Arsenal, and you have to guess who it is based on their full career path. So this player started at Genk. He went to Standard Liège. He went to Kortrijk on loan. He went to Mechelen on loan. He went to Genk. He went to Aston Villa, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and DC United. So basically, he was in Belgium for a long time, and then at the end of his career at Genk, he went to Aston Villa, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and DC United. Who is the player? And it is... Who's got that first? Who's got that first? It's not KDB. Jermaine has got it first. No, he's not. It's not De Bruyne. VV Vlad. VV Vlad has got it first. A regular, an old school. He's got it first. It's Benteke. It's Benteke who played last night in the All Stars team. George Christodoulou was second. Luke Arundel was third. Devin was fourth, and Sean O'Brien I think was fifth. Trying to say Bentley, but well played. Well played to VV Vlad. Well played to Jake Madiford, who of course got guessed the Gooner correctly today. And Benteke was sloppy yesterday. No, Benteke's career has fallen off a cliff. I mean, you know, like, that's one of those sort of flop signings that doesn't get massively spoken about. But Benteke for 40 million quid in 2015 was a big signing. And he really wasn't good. He really wasn't good at Liverpool. Arsenal won't finish top 3 next season, and Arsenal fans will realise they aren't as great as they think. All right, Kean, you're entitled to your opinion. The thing is, right, and look, no, he's entitled to his opinion. He's entitled to, you know, make himself look like a bit of a fool in front of the rest of us. But I would just love to know your reasoning, Kean. What is it about a team that came second, a team that came 9 points ahead of third, that has added Declan Rice, Yuri and Timber and Kai Havertz so far, that has the youngest squad in the league that are all getting better and better? What is it about all of that that makes you think they're going to drop outside the top 3? That's all I'd ask. That's all I'd ask. Have you seen Diaby going to Villa or Saudi Arabia? Pretty much means Kudus is nailed on. Yeah, Diaby is off the table completely. I think he's going to end up at Saudi. I can't remember which of the Saudi clubs it was. Was it Al Hilal? Or Al Ali? I can't remember. But yeah, Diaby's not going to happen. And honestly, if you gave me the option of Diaby or Kudus, I'd take Kudus. Just because of the additional versatility of being able to play in the midfield. So, and it'd be cheaper. I mean, literally, Kudus is going to be... you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did, Kudus would be cheaper than Diaby, more versatile, younger. What's not to love? Fab just tweeted about Diaby right now. What's he saying? What's old Fabrizio saying? Andre Onana's bid farewell to Inter Milan. What's Fab tweeted? I can't see it. Big confidence on the Villa side to get the deal done. Well, there you go. So earlier it sounded like he was going to Saudi, but now it sounds like he might be going to Villa. Who do you think will finish top 4 next season? For me, I think top 4 is quite easy to predict next season. I think it's Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Man United. I think that's quite easy. What was Guess the Gooner? Guess the Gooner today was one Petr Cech. It was Petr Cech. Yeah, my top 4 next year. And really, so Man City and Arsenal top 2 in some sort of order. And then Liverpool and Man United 3rd and 4th in some sort of order. That's my prediction for next season. Love how any player that goes to United instantly becomes top 5 in the world. They've got good PR. They've got good PR. Did Kian reply? Your team isn't at the same level as City, Liverpool, Chelsea. Right. Sorry, just so the Chelsea team that came 12th, right, has so far basically added no one other than Nkunku, is now a better squad than ours. I'll be honest, they had a lineup for their friendly last night. I recognised about 4 names on their team sheet. But hey, I'm sure you're right, Kian. I'm sure you're right. The rest of us are fools. The rest of us are fools. Kian is the Messiah. Kian Boyd, many actually, among the Boyd family and friends, they do refer to Kian as the Messiah. So, if you're going to put money on next season, just go the whole hog. Chelsea to win the league. Why not? Would you rather watch Arsenal in pre-season or the Women's World Cup? I'll watch both. Rory, bro, how can you say a clinical striker isn't a priority? Because we scored more goals last season than in any Premier League season in our history. What do you bring in a clinical striker to do? Score goals. Scoring goals right now isn't something that we're short on. So, don't get me wrong, eventually, in the same way that eventually Man City went and got Haaland, eventually it will be something that we need to do. But I think for the overall progression of the team, it's one of the last things we need to do because scoring is not a problem for us. And also, how many really top quality clinical strikers are there out there? Not many, and they're expensive. We don't have the budget for it this summer. What do you think about Højlund? I think he's overpriced. Don't get me wrong. I think Højlund is great. From what I've seen of him, I think he's fantastic. I think he's got high ceiling. He's got the sort of raw ability that is fantastic, but he is raw. He is Haaland probably before Haaland. He's Haaland in the season that he joined Salzburg. Like he's nowhere near the level that Haaland was when Haaland joined Dortmund. And for me, that's not worth 60 million quid right now, or 50 million quid right now. He scored 9 goals in Serie A last season. You know, he will be a great player, but I wouldn't be happy if we went and spent 60 million on Højlund right now. Not at all. I'm not saying they will, but remember a few years ago when they finished 10th, then won the league next season? To try and draw a comparison to that Chelsea team that finished 10th compared to the team that they've got now, it's not the same. It's not the same. They weren't completely decimating their squad, spending 600 million on... They're in a completely different position right now. Again, I respect your right to have an opinion, but I do disagree. Have you seen Chelsea's midfield list? Very weak. A lot of players with average age of 19 to 21. Yeah. Enzo Fernandez is the only midfielder they've taken on tour that gets into any of the top 6 teams. You know, that's just where they're at the moment. You spent 65 million on Havertz, who got 7 goals last season. I agree, but we bought him in as a midfielder, not a clinical striker. So, he was also Chelsea's top scorer last season. He can't help the fact that Chelsea were utterly abysmal last season, and therefore he didn't get many chances. I don't think Havertz would probably have scored 13, 14, 15 goals if he'd been at Arsenal last season. But look, we've gone on for 47 minutes. It's been a long one. It's been an enjoyable one, considering that really we didn't have much to talk about at the start of the show. There wasn't much news today. We've had a good one, so I massively appreciate you all for tuning in. If you've not subscribed already, please do so. Those Aaron and Halas sending in those super chats, honestly, massively appreciate that. And other than that, have a fantastic evening. I will catch you all tomorrow. If you want to watch a video that was more of just a reaction to last night's game, there is a 10-minute video on that. But yeah, have a good evening. Thank you all for tuning in, and goodbye.